Have you ever felt helpless while someone or something watched you, even when you were alone? Have you ever heard a whisper from the sky or footsteps in the forest that weren't yours? Tonight, you're not listening to just one story. You're listening to 3 nightmares carefully stitched together, each one reaching deeper and closer to you. If you dare, stay in the dark, put on your headphones and listen, because once these stories begin, you won't be able to look away or escape.
I need you to understand something before you listen to the rest of this. The thing that followed us out of the woods, it learned our voices. It learned how we cried. It learned how we begged. And now it knows how to sound like the people we love. If you ever hear someone calling your name from the trees at night, and they sound exactly like your mother, or your husband, or your child, don't answer, because some things in the woods don't want to hurt you. They want to replace you. My name is Daniel Reese, former Search and Rescue, Northern Range Unit. I'm recording this because the official reports are lies. Or maybe they're just missing the parts no one wants to believe. 3 years ago, 6 hikers vanished in Black Pine Forest. No signs of struggle. No blood, no bodies, just abandoned equipment. Boots still laced, tents still standing, campfires burned down to cold ash like everyone simply stood up and walked away at the same time. They sent my team in to find them. Only 2 of us came back, and I don't think we actually did. Black pine isn't like normal forests. The trees grow too close together. Their branches twist inward like they're trying to listen to the ground. The radio started acting strange the moment we crossed the trail marker. Static bursts, echoes of our own voices playing back seconds late. At one point, I heard myself say, "Daniel, I'm right behind you." But I hadn't spoken. No one had. Our tracker, Miles, joked it was signal bounce, nerves, cold air, electromagnetic interference. But the dogs refused to move. They planted their paws in the dirt and started whining, staring into the trees like something was standing just out of sight. We found the first campsite just before dusk. 6 sleeping bags, 6 backpacks, food half-eaten, 1 boot lying on its side, perfectly upright, like someone had carefully placed it there. No drag marks, no struggle, and no footprints leading away. Only more footprints leading in. Barefoot, human, too long, toes stretched like fingers. The prints circled the camp in wide loops, then disappeared into the underbrush. That's when the forest went quiet. No insects, no birds, not even wind. Just our breathing, and something else breathing in rhythm with us. We heard the first voice around 8:43 p.m. It came from the dark between the trees. A woman, crying, "Help me, please, I'm lost." It sounded real, too real. One of the missing hikers was a woman named Claire. We had her voice sample from her phone voicemail. The sound that came from the woods matched it perfectly. Same tone, same catch in her throat, same trembling inhale. But when we called back, the crying stopped instantly. Then a man's voice answered, "Miles, where did you go, man?" Miles went pale. "That's my brother," he whispered. "He died last year." We tightened formation, flashlights overlapping, weapons drawn. That's when Jacob, our rear guard, said, "Guys, why are there 2 Daniels walking ahead of us?" I turned and saw myself standing between the trees, smiling, not moving, just watching. Then the radio screamed with feedback, the lights flickered, and Jacob was gone. Not dragged, not pulled, just absent, like someone erased him between frames of reality. We searched for him for hours, found his helmet, found his rifle, found his body cam. But the last recorded footage wasn't of the forest. It was of us, standing around the camp, from a distance, from between the trees, from the height of something that wasn't human. And behind the camera, breathing softly, was a voice that said, "Now I know how you look when you're afraid."
We tried to mark the spot where Jacob vanished. Orange tape on trees, glow sticks on the ground, GPS coordinates logged. When we checked the map, the coordinates overlapped 3 different locations at once. Our watches disagreed by hours. The sun dipped, then rose, then dipped again in the span of what felt like minutes. The forest wasn't moving. Time was. Or we were. Or something was folding us like paper and letting us slide through the wrong cracks. That's when the radio crackled again. "Daniel, come here. I found Jacob." It was my voice, but it came from deep in the valley, and I hadn't spoken. We found a figure near the creek, a man in Jacob's uniform, standing perfectly still. Too still. His chest didn't rise. His eyes didn't blink. When we called his name, his head turned in a smooth, mechanical arc that no spine should allow. And he smiled. Not with relief, not with fear, but like someone practicing what a smile is supposed to look like. He opened his mouth and said in Jacob's voice, "It's safe now. You can come closer." His teeth were all wrong. Too many. Too even. Like they had been grown, not born. We backed away. He didn't follow. He just watched. Learning. In the abandoned ranger station, we found journals, decades old. Search teams, hunters, fire lookouts, all with the same notes. Voices that know your memories. Shapes that wear people. The forest studies us. One final entry written in shaking ink. It doesn't hunt. It rehearses. That's when the wind carried a chorus of whispers through the trees. Our names, our childhood nicknames, private things no one else should know. It wasn't calling to find us. It was calling to see who would answer. We ran. Not in a straight line. The forest wouldn't allow straight lines. Paths looped back on themselves. Clearings repeated like broken recordings. At one point, we burst into the same campsite we had left hours earlier. But now, the tents were new. The food was warm. And 6 people sat around the fire. Us. Talking. Laughing. Living a moment that hadn't happened yet. Or had already happened. Or was being practiced.
Miles dropped to his knees and screamed. That's when the copies turned their heads in unison and looked directly at us in the trees. Only I made it out. At least, I think I did. The road appeared suddenly, like it had been drawn into existence. Sunlight, wind, normal sounds. The forest behind me was silent. Too silent. In the debrief, they told me, no abnormal wildlife detected. No evidence of other persons. Trauma-induced hallucinations. But at night, I hear footsteps outside my apartment. I hear my own voice in the hallway, practicing my tone, practicing my breathing, practicing how I say my wife's name. I found something in my phone this morning, an audio file, recorded at 3:17 a.m. I was asleep at that time. The file contains me whispering, I think I understand now. Doors are just trees that learned how to open. So, if you're listening to this, and you ever walk in the woods, and you hear someone you love calling your name, remember what I told you at the beginning. Don't answer, because there are things in the woods that will never be explained, and some of them are still learning how to be us.
But if you want to hear more stories like this, of forests that remember, shadows that learn, and voices that are never really gone, subscribe and hit the bell, because some things in the woods are still learning how to be us. And I promise, you don't want to be left out when they practice next.
I keep asking myself how long help will take, unaware that waiting is all that's left, because no one tells you that you're already dead. I'm calling 911. I know I am because my thumb keeps pressing the screen, and the vibration tells me the call is going through. The dirt is heavy, packed tight against my chest and shoulders, but I can still think. That means I'm alive. Dead people don't think. The screen lights up. Call connected. Good. They'll hear me. I open my mouth. Nothing comes out. No pain, no choking, just silence. That's fine, I tell myself. The dirt must be blocking my voice. Soil absorbs sound. I've heard that before. They'll still hear something. Breathing, movement, anything. I focus. I try again. Still nothing. The dispatcher speaks. 911, what is your emergency? Relief floods me so hard it almost hurts. I answer immediately. I say my name. I say I'm trapped in a field west of Mendota. I say the trench collapsed while I was checking the irrigation line. I say there was an argument earlier about safety, about the walls being too steep. I say everything. The dispatcher waits. Silence stretches. Sir, she says, can you hear me? Of course I can. I scream yes. The call timer keeps counting. The seconds feel wrong. They don't move forward. They stack. The call timer climbs, but my thoughts keep circling the same moment. My thumb pressing the screen, the vibration, the connection. I swear I've already been here. I check the timer again. It's jumped. Minutes gone. I don't remember them passing. That's when I notice something else. The phone isn't warm anymore. It should be, but it feels neutral, like it's been lying still for a long time. I notice the calm first. It arrives quietly, like a hand resting on my chest. The pressure on my ribs isn't crushing anymore. The dirt doesn't feel heavy. In fact, I can't feel it at all. No weight, no pain, no panic. That's not how being buried alive is supposed to feel. The silence changes. It isn't empty anymore. There's a low vibration. Not sound, not movement, just a presence pressing in from every direction. The dirt feels aware. I get the sudden, horrifying thought that the ground isn't holding me, it's keeping me. The dispatcher speaks again, slower now. We have an open line, no audio detected. Her keyboard clicks faintly through the phone speaker. I try to wave my arm. I don't feel it move. I don't feel it exist. I try to cough. Nothing happens. I try to swallow. There's no resistance. My body isn't refusing to move. It just isn't there. That's when I realize something else. I'm not breathing, not holding my breath, not struggling, just not breathing. Memories begin slipping where they don't belong. I remember standing in this field, but also watching myself from above. I remember the trench collapsing, but also seeing dirt fill my mouth that never moved. I remember pain, but it ends too fast, too clean. The memories come back in pieces, too sharp, too clear. The sun over the field that morning, the smell of dry dirt, the sound of machinery idling nearby, my supervisor laughing when I pointed at the trench wall. It'll hold, just finish the line. The soil was too dry, cut too steep. I knew that. There's a gap, a clean cut in my memory. No panic, no final breath, just silence, like someone turned me off. Then the sound, not a crash, not a scream, just a deep, hollow whoops. The ground didn't fall, it collapsed inward. The weight hit my chest first. I never screamed. I never reached my phone. The memory stops there. Above me, I hear footsteps. Real ones. Boots on dirt. Voices. Metal scraping. Shovels. Relief crashes over me so hard I almost laugh. They found me. I start talking again. Fast. Desperate. I tell them exactly where I am. I try to pound on the dirt. I try to scream until my thoughts feel raw. Nothing changes. They don't react. The digging continues, but not toward me. They're widening the trench, searching. A hand reaches down through the dirt and pulls something free. My phone. Still lit. Still calling. When they lift the phone, the connection flickers. For a split second, I feel lighter, like I might go with it. Then the phone leaves, and I don't. Found the source, a deputy says. Phone only. They dig wider, deeper, slower. The dirt shifts, but I don't. Then another voice, quieter. There's no body here. Far away, the dispatcher stares at the screen. She's seen this before. Same silence, same farmland coordinates, same outcome. She doesn't say it out loud, but she already knows. The dispatcher disconnects the call, marks it as no caller found. Later, they'll understand. The collapse didn't leave a body. It crushed it into the soil, compacted and dragged under by the weight of the trench walls. The ground didn't just bury me, it absorbed me. No outline, no remains, just disturbed earth. A death with nothing left to recover. They bag the phone, log the coordinates, leave the field. The trench is filled back in by morning. Nothing to see, nothing to mark. The soil settles. Quiet. Waiting. It always waits. My phone goes dark, but I don't. I'm still here, thinking, waiting. I'm not alone. I feel them now. Others who dug too deep. Others who trusted the ground. Their thoughts brush against mine like static. Every time the earth is disturbed, one of us wakes up. The ground doesn't release what it takes. It just waits for the next disturbance, the next trench, the next machine that digs too deep. And when that happens, another phone will start ringing. Another open line. Another dispatcher listening to silence. And once again, no one will ever answer.
They say the ground remembers, and the phones keep ringing. If you want to know who or what is really waiting beneath the soil, hit like, subscribe, and comment your theory. Your idea might be the next story we tell.
I need you to listen carefully. Not later, not after you scroll, right now. Because if you've ever heard breathing when no one was there, if you've ever felt like something was standing just outside your vision, then this message is already meant for you. Every night, I hear it. Not wind, not static. Breathing, slow, patient, wrong. And the terrifying part isn't that it comes from space. It's that it sounds like it's right behind me. They told us no human ever walked on the moon in secret. They told us nothing ever watched us from there. That is the official story. But in 1992, I watched 3 men die on the lunar surface, and I swear to you, they were not the only ones there.
They tell you the first British person in space was Helen Sharman. They tell you no British person ever walked on the moon. That's true, officially. But in 1992, I watched 3 men die on the lunar surface, and something else watched with them. I was never supposed to be an astronaut. I was a systems psychologist for the European Space Agency, specializing in isolation trauma, submarines, Arctic stations, deep space simulation chambers, men locked in metal boxes with nothing but their own thoughts and the knowledge that rescue is impossible. In April of 1992, 2 dark-suited men came to my office in Cambridge. They didn't show badges, they didn't ask permission. They only said, "You have been cleared for a joint historical review project. You will come with us now." I laughed. I thought it was a prank. They did not laugh. They flew me to a military airfield in northern Scotland. No markings, no flags, just concrete, wind, and a hangar buried into the hillside like a wound. Inside was a room with no windows and a long table covered in reels of film, audio tapes, and sealed folders stamped "Lunar Joint Operations, Eyes Only." There were 6 other people there, 2 British, 2 Russian, 1 American, and 1 man who never spoke and never introduced himself. An observer, they said. He just watched. The first tape they played was 1972, Apollo 17, the final official mission to the moon. We all knew the story. Final EVA, flag, samples, return, heroes. But what they showed us had never been broadcast. Helmet cam footage. The astronaut was breathing hard, not from exertion, from fear. He kept whispering, "It's moving when I'm not looking at it." Then the camera turned. The lunar horizon was empty, except for something tall, too tall, standing behind a rock formation that hadn't been there in the previous frame. It wasn't solid, not quite shadow either, like darkness trying to remember how to be a shape. The audio cut. The screen went black. The Russian officer, General Volkov, spoke next, in a voice that had learned to never tremble. "We believed the Americans were hallucinating. Isolation psychosis, radiation effects, fear." He clicked to the next reel.
Soviet mission. Classified. 1974. Unmanned. The probe landed near the same coordinates. The transmission feed lasted exactly 42 seconds. In that time, something passed in front of the lens. Not walking, gliding, its outline bent the stars behind it. The signal did not fail. The probe was not damaged. The transmission simply stopped, like someone had closed a door. Then they showed us the real reason I was there. Operation Cold Meridian, a joint British-Russian mission launched in secrecy after the collapse of the USSR, hidden inside a satellite test failure. 3 men, 1 British pilot, 2 Russian cosmonauts. Official destination, orbital debris cleanup. Actual destination, the dark side of the moon. They had one objective: find out if the things were still there. We listened to their final transmission. The British pilot was named Harris. His voice was calm at first. Surface integrity nominal. Visibility low. There's interference on the visor. One of the Russians interrupted. Shadow moving across crater wall, but sun angle is wrong. Silence. Then Harris whispered, "It's standing where the shadow should be." Breathing. Not through a mic, not through a suit, through the airless vacuum, somehow vibrating the radio with the sound of lungs that never evolved to need oxygen. Another voice came through, not from any crew member. It used Harris's voice perfectly. "Do not be afraid. We have been waiting for you." They tried to run. The footage showed them scrambling toward the lander, and then the camera tilted. Something had touched the pilot's helmet. Not a hand, more like a thought given weight. The image warped, the stars bent, and Harris began screaming, but the scream echoed twice. Once from him, once from the thing wearing the pattern of his voice. The transmission ended with one final sentence spoken by all 3 men at once. "We are not alone anymore." No wreckage was ever found, no impact crater, no debris. It was as if the lander had simply been removed, not destroyed, collected. That was when the silent man in the room finally spoke. "You think they live on the moon," he said. "You're wrong." He leaned forward. "They live in the spaces between observation. The moon is just where they first learned how to look at us back." Since that day, I've been monitored. My phone clicks when I'm not on a call. My reflection lags in mirrors by a fraction of a second. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the lunar horizon and something standing on it, practicing how to stand like a man, practicing how to breathe, practicing how to say my name. So if one day you hear about a new mission to the moon and they say it's perfectly safe, and you hear a familiar voice from the broadcast say, "We are not alone, but we are not in danger," remember this: we were never the first to walk there. We were only the first to be noticed. And now, they've learned how to come closer.
If you love the slow burn of fear, the stories that creep under your skin, subscribe now. Don't fight the darkness. Let it follow you.